Madison Square Garden, New York City, November 1979. Bob Marley and the Wailers were performing to a sold-out crowd of 20,000 people. The energy was electric. Bob had just finished Exodus and was transitioning into jamming. The crowd was on their feet, dancing, singing, lost in the music. If you love discovering the untold stories behind music history's most incredible moments, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell because we uncover the hidden gems that shape the legends we know today. In the third row, center section, stood Michael Chen and his wife Sarah. Michael was a 28-year-old black man, a teacher from Brooklyn. Sarah was a 26-year-old white woman, a nurse. They'd been married for 2 years and had faced challenges, disapproving family members, stares in public, occasional comments. But they loved each other, and tonight they were celebrating their anniversary at a Bob Marley concert, their favorite artist. Sarah held Michael's hand as they swayed to the music. This was perfect. The music, the crowd, the energy, everything felt right. Directly behind them stood a man named Richard Coleman. He was 42 years old, white, wearing a business suit that looked out of place in the sea of casual concertgoers. Richard had come to the concert alone, not because he loved Bob Marley, but because his daughter did. She'd begged him for tickets for her birthday, but at the last minute she'd gotten sick and couldn't come. Richard had decided to use the ticket anyway. He'd paid good money for it. Richard had noticed Michael and Sarah immediately when he took his seat, an interracial couple, right in front of him. The sight made his stomach turn. Richard had grown up in a time and place where such relationships were not just frowned upon, they were illegal in some states. He believed in what he called natural order. Races shouldn't mix. It was wrong, against God's plan. For the first few songs, Richard stayed quiet, but as the concert went on, as he watched Michael and Sarah hold hands, kiss, embrace, his anger grew. The alcohol he'd been drinking before the concert didn't help. It loosened his inhibitions, made him bold. During a quieter moment between songs, Richard leaned forward and spoke loud enough for Michael and Sarah to hear. "Disgusting." Sarah heard it. She turned slightly but didn't say anything. Michael squeezed her hand. "Ignore him." The music started again. Bob was performing Stir It Up, a love song. Michael pulled Sarah close and they danced together. Richard spoke again, louder this time. "Race traitor." Sarah's body tensed. Michael felt it. He turned around and looked at Richard. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," Richard said, emboldened now. "She's a race traitor, and you're taking what doesn't belong to you." People around them started noticing. The couple next to Richard moved away slightly, uncomfortable. "We're not bothering you," Michael said, trying to keep his voice calm. "Please, just let us enjoy the concert." "You bother me by existing," Richard said. "Your kind always does." Sarah turned fully around now, tears forming in her eyes. "What is wrong with you? We're just trying to—" "You should be ashamed," Richard interrupted. "Your parents must be so proud, throwing yourself away on a—" He used the slur, the word designed to dehumanize, to hurt. Michael's fists clenched. Every instinct told him to turn around and hit this man, to defend his wife, his dignity, himself. But he knew what would happen. He'd be arrested. He'd be the aggressor in everyone's eyes. The angry black man who attacked someone at a concert. "Don't," Sarah whispered, seeing the tension in Michael's body. "He's not worth it." But Richard wasn't finished. He kept talking, kept spewing hatred. People around them were getting uncomfortable, but no one intervened. Some looked away. Others pretended not to hear. That's how it always worked. People witnessed hatred, but stayed silent. On stage, Bob Marley was finishing Stir It Up. But something was wrong. Bob could feel it. He'd been performing for 20 years, and he'd developed an instinct for crowds. He could sense when energy shifted from positive to negative. Bob's eyes scanned the audience, looking for the source of the disturbance. And then he saw it. Third row, center. A black man and white woman facing forward, bodies tense. And behind them, a white man leaning forward, mouth moving, face twisted with anger. Bob had seen this before. In Jamaica, in London, in America. He knew what hatred looked like. Bob stopped playing. He held up his hand. The wailers gradually stopped. The crowd went quiet, confused. Why had the music stopped? Bob walked to the edge of the stage, microphone in hand. He pointed toward the third row. "You, in the suit, stand up." Richard looked around, unsure if Bob meant him. "Yeah, you," Bob said. "The man in the third row who's been talking instead of listening. Stand up." 20,000 people turned to look at Richard. His face went red. "Stand up," Bob repeated, "or my security will help you stand up." Slowly, Richard stood. "What's your name?" Bob asked. "Richard," he said quietly, his earlier boldness evaporating under the gaze of thousands. "Richard, you came to my concert tonight. You paid money to be here. But you're not listening to music. You're spreading hate. Why?" Richard said nothing. "The couple in front of you," Bob continued. "The man and the woman holding hands. What did they do to you?" "They," Richard started. "They what? They loved each other? They came to enjoy music? They dared to exist in your presence?" The crowd was completely silent. This wasn't a performance anymore. This was something else. Something real. "Come up here," Bob said. "What?" "Come to the stage. You and the couple you've been harassing. All three of you. Come up here." Security guards moved to the third row. Michael and Sarah looked at each other, confused and frightened. "It's okay," one guard said gently. "Bob wants to talk to you." Michael, Sarah, and Richard were escorted to the stage. Richard was shaking now, the alcohol wearing off, reality setting in. He was on stage at Madison Square Garden in front of 20,000 people, about to be publicly humiliated. Bob gestured for Michael and Sarah to stand on his right, Richard on his left. The couple held hands tightly, overwhelmed. Bob looked at Michael and Sarah first. "What are your names?" "Michael," the man said quietly. "This is my wife, Sarah." "How long you been married?" 2 years. Bob smiled. "Congratulations. You love each other?" "Very much," Sarah said, her voice shaking. Bob turned to Richard. "And you have a problem with that?" Richard's jaw trembled. I was raised to believe." "What?" "That love has a color. That God made some people for some people and not for others?" "Yes," Richard whispered. "Then you were raised wrong," Bob said simply. "And now you have a choice. You can keep holding on to that hate. Let it poison you. Let it make you smaller and meaner and more alone. Or you can let it go." "I don't know how," Richard said. And to everyone's surprise, he started crying. "I don't know how to let it go. It's all I know." Bob stepped closer to Richard. "You let it go by seeing people as people, not as colors, not as categories, as humans. These two people in front of you, they're not symbols. They're not statements. They're just two people who love each other, like your parents loved each other, like you've loved someone. There's no difference." "But it's wrong," Richard said weakly. "Says who?" Bob asked. "Who told you it was wrong? God? I read the Bible. God talks about love, not about who you can love and who you can't. People made those rules. Hateful people. People who wanted to control others. You gonna let dead people's hate run your life?" The crowd began applauding. Richard stood there, tears running down his face, decades of taught hatred cracking under the weight of simple truth. Bob turned to Michael and Sarah. "I'm sorry you had to deal with that tonight. This was supposed to be a celebration. Your anniversary, yeah?" "Yeah," Michael said. "Then let's celebrate properly." Bob turned to his band. "Play One Love." The opening notes filled Madison Square Garden. Bob began to sing, but he didn't move away from Michael, Sarah, and Richard. He kept them all on stage. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel all right. Bob took Michael's hand and Sarah's hand and held them up. The crowd roared with approval. 20,000 people celebrating love, celebrating unity. Then Bob did something unexpected. He reached out and took Richard's hand too. Richard flinched but didn't pull away. "Hear the children crying," Bob sang, and then he spoke directly to Richard. "You hear them? Children don't know hate. They have to be taught. You were taught, but you can unlearn it. Right now. Right here." Bob pulled Richard into the circle, with Michael and Sarah. The four of them stood on stage holding hands, while Bob Marley sang One Love to 20,000 people. Richard was sobbing openly now, not from anger but from something else. Shame, regret, recognition of how much of his life he'd wasted on hatred. When the song ended, the crowd gave a standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. Bob hugged Michael and Sarah. "Go enjoy the rest of the show. And happy anniversary." Then Bob turned to Richard. "Go home. Think about tonight. And tomorrow, wake up different." Richard nodded, unable to speak. He walked off the stage, escorted by security through a backstage exit to avoid the crowd. Bob returned to his microphone. "Music brings us together. That's its purpose. Not to divide, not to separate, but to remind us we're all human. We all feel, we all love. And those who try to tell us who we can and cannot love, they're afraid. Afraid of a world where everyone is free. Don't let their fear become your prison." The concert continued for another hour. Bob performed every song with even more passion than before. And in the third row, Michael and Sarah held each other, crying, grateful, knowing they'd just witnessed something they'd never forget. 3 days later, Michael received a letter at his home address. No return address, but the postmark was local. Inside was a handwritten note. "Dear Michael and Sarah, I am the man from the concert. I don't know how to apologize for what I said and how I acted. I don't expect forgiveness. But I wanted you to know that I haven't stopped thinking about that night. About what Bob Marley said. About what I saw when I looked at you two on that stage. Just two people in love. Nothing wrong, nothing shameful. I'm 42 years old. I've believed certain things my whole life. I don't know if I can change completely. But I want to try. I'm going to try. Thank you for not hating me. I don't deserve your grace, but thank you. Richard." Michael showed the letter to Sarah. They read it together and both cried. "Should we respond?" Sarah asked. "I don't know how," Michael said. "He didn't leave an address." "Maybe that's the point," Sarah said. "Maybe he just needed us to know he's trying." 20 years later, in 1999, Michael and Sarah were at a Bob Marley tribute concert in Central Park. They were 48 and 46 now, still married, with 2 teenage children. During a break between performers, an older man approached them. He was in his 60s, gray hair, kind eyes. "Excuse me," the man said. "This is going to sound strange, but are you Michael and Sarah Chen?" They looked at him, confused. "Yes?" "I'm Richard Coleman, from Madison Square Garden, 1979. Michael and Sarah stared. They barely recognized him. The angry man in a suit was gone. This man looked peaceful, gentle. "I just wanted you to know," Richard said, his voice shaking with emotion. "That night changed my life. I got help, therapy. I confronted the hatred I'd been taught. It wasn't easy. It took years. But I did it. And I wanted to thank you for not hating me back, for showing me grace I didn't deserve." Sarah reached out and hugged Richard. He started crying. Michael joined the embrace. 3 people who'd met in hatred, reunited in love. "Bob Marley saved me that night," Richard said. "But you two saved me too, by just being yourselves, by loving each other despite people like me. Thank you." Today, that moment at Madison Square Garden is part of Bob Marley legend. Video footage exists. Grainy, low quality, but real. You can watch Bob stop his concert, call out a racist, bring him on stage, and turn hatred into a teaching moment. Michael and Sarah, now in their 70s, still tell the story. And Richard Coleman, now 87, volunteers at a civil rights nonprofit in New York, teaching tolerance, sharing his story of transformation. Bob Marley didn't just make music, Richard tells the young people he mentors. He made truth impossible to ignore. That night, he held up a mirror and made me see what I'd become. And then he showed me what I could be instead. That's the power of music. That's the power of love.